This is an abandoned island that legend says was formed by the ashes of the thousands upon thousands infected by the bubonic plague.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 10 real and terrifying places that are scarier than any horror movie.
They believed they would look into their hearts and they would become penitent if they spent enough time in isolation, but of course what it did instead was just kind of drive people insane.
Centralia, USA.
It all began back in May 1962, when local officials unwittingly sparked an underground fire. A fire that would make the town uninhabitable.
What happens when your hometown becomes a literal hellscape? Centralia was once a small mining community in Pennsylvania until a coal seam fire ignited beneath it in 1962. And that was that for Centralia.
And the fire spread from the garbage through an opening in the pit that went into this labyrinth of abandoned coal mines beneath the town. And that's how the mine fire got started.
The fire still burns to this day, releasing toxic fumes and turning the town into a smoldering wasteland. Streets are cracked, homes are in ruins, and nearly every resident has been evacuated, turning it into a ghost town. Smoke still seeps from the ground, and the eerie silence reigns where life once thrived. It's basically an IRL Silent Hill. In fact, Centralia served as a major inspiration in designing the town for the film.
November 74, when the fire caught, they tried to evacuate this place as quick as they could, but it was hellish. People were dying and disappearing. Hell, they couldn't even find half the bodies. That was the end of Silent Hill. These were good people, most of them.
Humberstone and Santa Laura Saltpeter Works, Chile. Deep in Chile's Atacama Desert sit the abandoned mining towns of Humberstone and Santa Laura, once booming with workers extracting valuable saltpeter, also known as white gold. These towns collapsed after the synthetic version was invented and demand evaporated. Residents fled, leaving behind rusted machinery, creaking playgrounds, and eerily intact buildings. That said, these buildings are mere shells of what they once were, haunting and decaying remnants of times gone by. Walk through empty schools and silent factories, and you'll feel like you've stepped into a post-apocalyptic film set. Only, it's much scarier. Because it's real. The town's ghostly stillness and true sense of isolation are enough to make any visitor's skin crawl. 25 Cromwell Street, England.
25 Cromwell Street in Gloucester has become one of the most infamous addresses in Britain. For 20 years, Fred and Rose West quenched their appetite for sex and murder inside this house of unimaginable horror.
Oftentimes, the most horrifying places aren't haunted by spirits, they're inhabited by monsters. At 25 Cromwell Street in Gloucester, England, Fred and Rosemary West committed a string of gruesome murders during the 70s and 80s, luring young women into their home before tormenting and murdering them and burying their remains around the property.
It's horrible to think that there are, dead bodies in a garden just down the road. It's just thoroughly disgusting. I mean, it's horrifying to think.
Among the victims was the couple's own daughter, Heather. And when their crimes went public, the house became a symbol of pure evil and was demolished in 1996 to erase its sinister legacy. Today, all that remains are some chilling photographs, including some absolutely haunting pictures of the basement where the victims were taken and murdered by the sinister couple.
On March the 4th, 1994, police moved their search inside the house. They had a feeling that down in the dark cellar, they may uncover even more bodies.
Hashima Island, Japan.
私たちは鉄筋コンクリートの柱、梁、それぞれの鉄筋の健全性について調査を行い、
Nicknamed Battleship Island, Hashima lies off the coast of Japan, its crumbling buildings rising from the sea like a concrete ghost ship. Once a bustling coal mining colony owned by Mitsubishi, it housed thousands of workers packed into narrow apartment blocks. But when the mines closed in the mid-1970s, everyone left, and the island was completely abandoned.
いくつかの建築物は非常に鉄筋の腐食が進み、ほぼ崩壊しそうな状態にまで至っています。
Decades of exposure have left it frozen in decay, with collapsed walls, broken windows, and eerily empty classrooms. The silence is deafening. For years, Hashima was completely off limits to the public, though it's now open to limited tours, and its haunting beauty inspired Silva's villain lair in Skyfall. Hashima feels like walking in humanity's footprint after the apocalypse.
当時の羽島を知ってる人は、羽島には全く緑がないという印象だったそうですけど。
The Tower of London, England.
For these ancient fortifications,
set in grounds the same size as those of the White House, are far more than just a castle keeping London safe from her enemies.
Tourists may come for the crown jewels, but many leave convinced they've met a ghost. The Tower of London has stood for nearly a millennium and has seen centuries of imprisonment, excruciating pain, and many executions.
A near inescapable prison, incarcerating all who angered the sovereign ruler of the day. A fearful place of execution.
Its most famous spirits include Anne Boleyn, said to roam the grounds carrying her own severed head, and the princes in the tower, two young boys who were likely murdered by Richard III. But even if you don't believe in all that, you can't deny the tower's heavy atmosphere. It's massive, the stones are ancient, and the cold is relentless, both literally and symbolically. It's a royal fortress, an execution ground, a brutal prison, and a paranormal hotspot. The tower has seen it all.
Prison conditions at the tower do vary enormously. People have this vision of sort of dungeons and rats, and certainly for some people that's true. It really does depend on your social status. If you had nothing, this could be a really horrible, horrible, cold, nasty place.
Eastern State Penitentiary, USA.
I would define dark tourism as a site or institution whose history or content or subject matter has to do with something morbid. Pain, suffering, trauma, death, dying, these kinds of things.
Opened back in 1829, Eastern State Penitentiary revolutionized prison design, and not really in a good way. For one thing, look at those walls. One look is enough to send chills through your blood, but mainly, it helped popularize solitary confinement as a form of rehabilitation, locking inmates in near total isolation.
Eastern State's often known as the world's first true penitentiary. And what that means is a building designed to inspire regret. And a big part of how the prison officials did that was, again, through architecture. The outside of the building resembles a Gothic castle. It's scary, it's intimidating, and it's what we would call a deterrent.
The result? Widespread mental health issues and endless suffering. The prison ceased operation in 1971, but the echoes of its horrid past remain. Peeling paint, rusty cell doors, endless hallways, and a cold, damp air creating a highly unnerving atmosphere. And yes, paranormal investigators have flocked here for decades, calling it one of the most haunted places in America. This is scarier than any Gothic horror movie.
Now, is this how these guys were locked in here, by these kind of doors?
Yeah. Well, there was a metal door on the inside and a wooden door on the outside. So the metal door would have swung closed, and the sliding wooden door keeps them from talking across the hall.
That would drive you insane. That would make you go crazy.
That's what happened.
The Catacombs of Paris, France.
And although Paris is one of the world's most instantly recognizable cities, just below the surface of the City of Light lurks a mysterious darkness.
Any place that has towering walls of human skulls is enough to earn a place on this list. Directly beneath bustling streets of Paris lies an underground maze lined with bones, and lots of them. The catacombs were created in the 18th century to deal with overflowing cemeteries, relocating the remains of more than 6 million people into former limestone quarries. Today, visitors can walk through these eerie tunnels, where human skulls and femurs form intricate, macabre patterns on the walls.
When you walk in there, you'll see bones stacked. They're everywhere. You'll have thigh bones stacked up in places. You'll have skulls stacked in other places.
The air is cold, the dark is relentless, and the silence absolute. Stray too far from the main path, and you could literally get lost forever. It certainly adds an element of danger to an already horrifying prospect.
Over the main entrance to the Paris catacombs, there is carved a sign which, when translated, reads, "Stop. This is the Empire of the Dead."
Auschwitz-Birkenau, Poland.
For me, Auschwitz is a cemetery.
I remember the hangings. I remember the horror.
Auschwitz is like a terrible scar.
It was a terrible place.
This World War II concentration camp was the site of unimaginable atrocities, where over 1 million people were systematically murdered by the Nazis. Today, the preserved barracks, barbed wire fences, and crematoria serve as both a museum and memorial. Visitors describe an overwhelming stillness in the air, a feeling of sorrow and disbelief that words could never capture.
When we came to Auschwitz, we felt something like burning. I didn't see the chimneys, but we felt the air like burning, like bones, you know?
Walking through the gate reading, work sets you free, feels like stepping into the darkest chapter in human history. And places like the gas chambers or Block 11's Wall of Death obviously carry a heavy atmosphere. Even physically, Auschwitz is deeply unsettling, its architecture cold and almost inhumane. Visiting Auschwitz is a difficult task, there's no question about it.
Miriam Ziegler was 8 when she was experimented on here by the notorious Nazi Dr. Joseph Mengele.
And that's you.
And that's me. And I wouldn't want anybody to live through what we lived through.
The Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, Ukraine.
You can see it first dripping from the ceiling, large puddles accumulated on the floor, and there's a sense of fear that comes from that. Because they tell you that if there's anything you should stay away from, is do not touch the water. There is nothing that is more irradiated than the water itself.
If you want to truly feel like you're living in the post-apocalypse, head over to the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. Just don't stay too long. In 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear reactor exploded, releasing a massive amount of radiation into the atmosphere and forcing tens of thousands to flee the nearby city of Pripyat. They never returned.
What was going through my mind is how did those masks get to those rooms? It was really shocking just to see so many of them, because you walked into the room and we didn't know what to expect. And you kind of, you turn around and there's a sea of these masks, and it was terrifying.
Today, the area stands neglected, with abandoned schools, decaying apartment blocks, and even a rusting amusement park left as they were on that tragic day. Nature has slowly crept back, partly reclaiming the ruins, yet radiation lingers as an invisible threat. And meanwhile, the gigantic noose-safe confinement towers over all, shielding the world from the horrors that lay within the ruined reactor.
The arch is designed to keep the reactor complex environmentally secure and to allow, sometime in the future, the partial demolition of the old structure. The original sarcophagus is showing signs of deterioration and has undergone a series of upgrades since the disaster.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Poveglia Island, Italy.
This is an abandoned island that legend says was formed by the ashes of the thousands upon thousands infected by the bubonic plague. How many people would you say were burned over there?
Hundreds of thousands of people.
Welcome to what's often called the most haunted island in the world. Poveglia sits quietly in the Venetian lagoon, but its history betrays the romanticism of Italy. Once used as a quarantine station during various plague outbreaks, it's said that thousands of victims were dumped here and left to die, their disease safely isolated from the mainland.
They used the different islands in the lagoon in order to put the corpse.
The island was eventually abandoned altogether, and locals absolutely refused to go near it. Overgrown ruins, a crumbling bell tower, and whispers of restless spirits make Poveglia feel cursed. Even fishermen stay well clear, afraid of digging up old bones. With its gruesome past and eerie silence, Poveglia is a lingering nightmare.
They would have barges and go through the mainland, the canals. They would bring these barges and pile up all the dead bodies, and they would bring them here and they would burn them here.
It happened. They burned here.
Wow. So you got a lot of dark history on this place. I mean, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
Have you visited any of these places? What did you think? Let us know in the comments below.